This is the concierge, sir.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Concierge Confidential. I'm your host, Brian Ortega, and this episode is actually probably one of my favorite topics. I think it's actually everybody's favorite topic that comes to Las Vegas. You can probably hear the jitteriness in my mouth right now, just because I did get a message on Instagram, thanks to, let me pull her up really quick, Amy. So thank you so much for listening to the podcast, and hopefully you guys enjoy Vegas when you come. But she did ask about everybody's favorite topic, and that is tipping. So I've actually probably done one or two other episodes on tipping, and let's do another one, because she said she couldn't find one. So I could have just directed it to that podcast, but after, all the years of doing this, I think it's always good to do a refresher on what people are expecting, what are Vegas-specific things that you should include. A lot of things are already, they are like almost a point where you have to fill out it on the computer, which is annoying. So I thought I'd talk about it, and I wanted an easy episode today. So we're going to talk about tipping because I think I'm a pretty generous tipper, I think, but also because I'm a local, so I usually go back to places quite frequently, and that does help. So we're going to be diving into this tipping episode coming up next. Okay, so part of the message that she put in was that she does expect, how tipping works for the most part, but was wondering what Vegas-specific things tipping can help you with. Is it just for great service? Is it, all the time? Who's expected to have a tip? And especially for like gambling and such is usually something that you won't see on the everyday. How much do you tip dealers and that kind of thing? So I'll go ahead and dive into it. So essentially, tipping, let's just get out the easy one out there first. If you're going to dinner or a restaurant or a meal where there is, waiter, waitress service, 20% is what is expected. A lot of people used to say like 18%, but 20%, 22% if you want to be really nice, is essentially what you're looking for. And that is after tax. After tax, pre-tax. I always do after tax. A lot of people do like before tax. I do including tax. So like if something is $50, the tip for that would be, the minimum would be $10. That would be a 20% of $50. I figured out actually how my percentages worked with money just based on tipping in restaurants. So like if it is a $100 bill, a $100 check, then it is a $20 tip. That's essentially what 20% is. I know I'm really bad at math. You guys have heard me talk about math on this podcast, but that's essentially what it is. Is it for good service or bad service? Like, should you still tip to 20%? It's completely up to you. Tipping, we should cover off the top, is always up to you. But there is a certain expectation in terms of what is expected. I typically get, I think most people get, not just me, but I think most people in Las Vegas get very good service. A lot of people point to like New York as being like one of the best places for hospitality, just because it's sort of the center of the universe when it comes to, dining in America. And I kind of disagree. It's very like hit or miss in New York if you get good service or not. I think just because maybe just East Coast, West Coast differences, and it really depends on like the level of restaurant you're at. But I don't know. Hospitality was not like a universal thing in New York. I could definitely say that hospitality is a universal thing in Las Vegas. Everybody will have a different story, such and such, but for the most part, our hospitality standards are quite high in the city of Las Vegas because it is our largest industry, other than things like tech and that kind of thing. But moving on, so restaurants, again, 20% is kind of what is expected. What happens if you're going to like a bar? Like you actually just go to a bar, in a restaurant and you just get drinks. I tend to do just 20% off of that bill, just because that's easy for me. But a lot of people will do like $1 for a beer, $2 for a cocktail, which I think is like kind of low. I think the thing is if you're going to sit at like a casino bar and you're going to drink beer like all day, like you're going to be there for more than, 3 or 4 beers, then, maybe $1 a drink is fine, or $1.50 because they'll have 50 cents essentially at that point, is maybe like acceptable. But I would just do whatever the total is and then do the percentages. I'm not there to do all the work of like how many beers I had, like one here and that the other. And a lot of times it's much easier that way just because you're usually using card at this point. People like my dad who essentially use cash almost 100% of the time when they're doing anything in terms of drinking or eating in Las Vegas. It's all cash based. So they tend to sort of, string along the tips as they go along. But one thing about that is that if you're playing like a tabletop, like slot machine or poker or like video poker, it's a lot more regulated now. It used to be much more, easier way to finagle getting more drinks and tipping. Like if you were playing a blackjack table, like a blackjack machine, like if you're actually like at a video blackjack machine at a bar, you used to be able, as long as you looked like you were actively playing, pushing the button, doing well, but also tipping well. Like if you gave the bartender, $10 at the start before they even gave you a beer, they would basically just keep you stocked all day as long as you kept giving them, $1 or $2 after that $10. Some people would tip like $20 at the top and then essentially don't have to pay for any more drinks for the rest of the day. And when the drinks are around, $6, and that's like generous. A lot of places in town, the beers are around, $10. It's crazy, or $9.50. I've seen that happen. I've actually seen bottles of beer, I think, for like almost $8 or $9 in town. So it's on the strip. It's really crazy. But it's much more regulated now. You can't really do that. Essentially, what you have to do is you have to have a player's card. You don't have to have a player's card, but you essentially have to be playing the machine. And on the back of the machine, which you can't see as a patron, is a little light. And that light has different colors. It'll be red, yellow, and green. So red typically means that you are not actively playing the game. Or you've played the game, but then you stopped playing, and it basically resets to that sort of bottom number. Then you go up to yellow, and then yellow will essentially mean, these are like sort of the very technical ones. A lot of them are just red or green, but the middle one would be that you are actively playing, you are working towards that next drink, you are working towards a certain number that you have to get to. And then green means you are ready for your next drink, or you are able to get a new cocktail from that moment. And they switch, and they, flip them on and off, and that whole thing. And it's usually very subtle, the way that they can switch them off if they're doing it. But it's essentially the case. So very interesting. It sucks. It does suck. But that is how they track whether you're, drinking, a lot or not. Are playing enough to warrant your free cocktail. So yeah, that does kind of suck. But you can still tip well. Like the thing is that these are still human beings that have to give you all these drinks, which is, fantastic from our point of view, which means if you tip well, like let's just say that, you're playing that video poker machine and you give them, $10 is actually kind of underrated, but if you give them $10 at the beginning, if they're cool, you have to feel them out. This is sort of like a feel out process. If they're cool with you, they'll probably just make sure you're refilled whenever you're ready to go. And then you just continue giving them $1 or $2 from then on out. But again, the thing that people get, kind of twisted in Las Vegas is that if you do something for me now, I'll tip you really good on the back end. The way that it works is, and again, you see this all the time, like in movies where they, tip them as they come in and everything is just sort of happens. A really good example of that is in the movie Goodfellas. In Goodfellas, you have Ray Liotta's character who's going into the Copacabana. He's tipping all these people on the way there. And you say, oh my goodness, you just do this once and this is how it's supposed to work. No, you've had to have done this at least, 15, 20 times where you see this person, you've talked to this person at least at some point, explain sort of the situation, and they know who you are. That is the situation that I get to do just because I do live in Las Vegas and I get to, do all these fun things. That'd be the same thing for your city. Like if I came to, let's just say Sacramento, and I went to the bar that you always go to, or I go to like the nightclub you go to like in San Francisco or Los Angeles, and the door guy or somebody, the bartender, you have that rapport already built up. So really, what happens is that we tip regardless, especially us who live here, just because it's expected. But we've built up the reputation. We've built up the rapport with that person where they already kind of know what we want. So for you as the patron, I always recommend that you tip first. You tip first, and then you never require something to happen. It's always a request. And it's always out of sort of good faith. And you have to be okay with maybe tipping somebody and then not getting something back. Usually you'll get something, but you have to understand if there's a time and a place and a certain person who does it. So, for example, how do I get something out of this? So let's start small. So let's say you're going to a restaurant. Let's just say it's your anniversary or a birthday or something of that nature. You walk up to the hostess and you say, yeah, I'm here to check in for my 8 o'clock reservation. My name is Mr. Ortega, or my name is Brian Ortega, and reservation for 2. Say, okay, I see you right here. And sometimes, most of the time, they will make you wait for a second. They will be like, well, give us a second. We'll get you all set up and we'll go. In that 2 seconds, it happens very quickly. Like in that 30 seconds that they go from let me, get you set up, hang on a second. What you can do is, and it's usually good when there's not a manager nearby. Usually you don't want to have a manager nearby when you do this little trick. If you want a really good seat, or you want a nice part of the restaurant or a view, and this is obviously for restaurants that don't make you pay for a view in the beginning, because restaurants do that, especially in town if you're anywhere near the Bellagio fountains. But you get to the hostess, and this happened to me. I was actually like on a date, and the date was running late, so I had a little bit of time, and I checked in early, and I said, oh, she's running late, but, I'm here to check in for the reservation. They say, okay, very nice. Just, check in with us when you come back. I said, thank you so much. What was your name? Always ask somebody's name. It is very important to ask somebody's name, because that then makes them responsible for you, which means that they are now on the hook for whatever happens, after that. But I'll say, thank you. What was your name again? And then she'll say, Brittany or something. And then you say, thank you so much, Brittany. You go for the handshake. Again, you have the money in your palm already. I like to sort of like fold it up. Sometimes I just put it in between my 2 fingers, kind of like not that hidden, but I'll say, what was your name? And then you just kind of keep it, palmed up a little bit, and you go for the shake. I really never shake like women's hand like that. I don't know. 'Cause it's like, we've known each other for 3 seconds, and usually for a hostess, that's not a normal sort of thing, is to shake the patron's hand. It's just, it's very odd. But if there's money in there, they will 100% shake your hand because they know. So I'll say, thank you so much. Sometimes I'll just hand it to them. I'll just be like, hey, thank you so much. All you have to say is, thank you so much. Give them the 20. 20 gets you a lot of good things in Las Vegas. Give the hostess a 20. Make sure there's no managers around. And then when you're ready to get seated, they will typically either give you a couple different things. They'll either give you one of the better seats in the restaurant, which for that particular time, we got a really cool like corner seat that was really good for a date, because it was sort of like on the curve of the banquette. So you can kind of be close to somebody, but also have like enough room. So really, really good seat and a really nice view of the kitchen. So actually, now that I'm thinking about it, really great job of the hostess. And then high-end restaurant hostesses like know the situation. So did that. We ended up getting free bread, which was really nice. The bread should always be free, but the focaccia was really good, delicious. Usually you have to pay for it. Then we also got a dessert as well, which was fantastic. And it was, when they brought it out, because we were looking at the dessert menu, they said, this is, compliments of the chef, and it was a yada, yada, yada. And it was very, very good. So yeah, restaurants, really great place to get free shit. If you tip. And the key people to tip are the hostess, and if you can see, the chefs. I don't eat at sushi restaurants very often, but I've heard if you sit anywhere close to like the sushi bar area, even like at the bar itself, is that you buy the chefs a drink. You buy the chefs a round of sake. It's a very common custom to do that. And then typically they will also take care of you when they make your food. So I think that's a very interesting one that I would love to do, but I don't eat sushi. So I don't really tend to hit up the sushi restaurants very often. But that's specifically the sushi bar at a sushi restaurant. But again, going back to it, $20 to the hostess gets you a good amount of stuff inside of a restaurant. But I mean, make sure you make the reservation ahead of time. The thing is that like $20 won't get you a reservation at a hot restaurant. Like if you're going to, let's just say Delilah's, common favorite for me. If you tip the hostess $20 to you, like cool. I don't know if I can seat you there now. You may be able to get seated in the bar and lounge area, because they do reserve those spaces every so often. And if they're not reserved, they might kick somebody out if they can. And that's specifically for the bar area. So maybe, but again, it's a smaller party. Depends on the night. It's a lot of like sort of scenarios, but that's who you'd want to tip. For instance, this is one of my favorite little things about, living here is that I would say that most of the bartenders at Delilah's do know who I am. I would say that a couple other bars do remember who I am, but like Fountain Blue, definitely know that the bartenders remember me at Fountain Blue at Mother Wolf. And then I also go to the Collins Bar, so they know me as well. And that's really it. There's only like 3. That's it. Maybe 4 if you count Nocturno, because, I've been in there, a lot since they opened. Because, again, this is the thing. You got to build relationships. Very, very important. But another really cool little thing, if you're wanting to go to one of these places, like let's just say Mayfair Supper Club, if you want to go to Delilah's, places that have not a lot of seating, but it's very, very busy. This works at the bar specifically, and that have, they obviously have to have the chairs there. Because a lot of times I'll walk into Delilah's and they don't have chairs available. And I like to sit at the, the bar top on the, in the bubble bar. And what I'll do is, and I started doing this for some reason on like a really busy night, I would order a drink. So you always order a drink because that means you're paying for something. But I order a drink, and then I'll give them my card to hold on file, and then I'll put the 20 behind the card. So it doesn't, because you usually have to go like over people. And it's a nice way to sort of hide the money, but they're going to feel it when they touch it. So what'll happen is I'll say, let me just get an old fashioned. I'll say hi first, whoever it is, and then I'll hand it to them. And at the same time, I'm giving the card and the money. They'll take it, take the order, and I'll just say, let me know when something opens up. That's essentially save a spot for me when a spot opens up. But you don't say save a spot for me. It's all about the vernacular. It's all the way how you deliver things. And it's very, very important. So I'll usually say, let me know when something opens up. And then they will usually say, cool, I got you. And then we're off to go. It's important because sometimes you're on a different part of the bar and you can't get to the other side quick enough, and people are eyeballing the same seat that you are. And it does feel really cool, very like Goodfella-esque when you are on one side of the bar and like be around. Like don't go like gallivanting someplace. Be around the bar area, at least in view, and keep an eye out. But when that person starts getting up, I'll start moving that direction. And I've had it where somebody were actually trying to slide into the seat, but then the bartender will actually put a little reserve sign up and say, well, this person was going to sit here first. And then boom, Goodfella-esque. And then again, boom, we're good to go for the next time. It's also happened before, like where I did tip them and I just ended up finding a spot without them. Like they didn't have to put the reserve sign up. I was just already there. But the thing is, it's always for next time. In my brain, talking to them, it's always for the next time. That's what the tip is for the next time, Because sometimes you may not have the money, and sometimes you don't want to tip the second time. But they know you. They've built up this sort of thing in your brain of who you are, which, is fun. And it's really where you get the Goodfella thing. But for somebody who is not somebody who comes here all the time, totally understand. A really good way to do this, let's just say it's you and another person walking up to the bar. Just say hello, how's it going? It might be busy, so you can't really do all that. This is, hey, how's it going? Maybe do like a wave and order a drink, order 2 drinks, whatever you want. And then just say, hey, like, I would like to sit at the bar at some point. And then just say, well, it's really, really busy. And then essentially you could say, well, if something opens up, just point it out for me or something like that. If something opens up, just let me know. And if you tip them in the beginning, they will sometimes find a spot for you. Again, I haven't tried this as somebody who doesn't go all the time, but this is some way that you might be able to get something. And if not, then don't, you give them $20 when you get the drink the first time, then, and you don't get a spot, let's just say like, it's time for a show or whatever, then just don't tip them on the card. Just give them the 20. The cocktail's going to be really good, especially at like Delilah's or like Carbone or something, and you're good to go. It works. But yeah, that's one of my favorite things is actually like, just, feeling like you're in Goodfellas. It's fantastic. But like I said, $20 gets you a long way. $10 is an underrated like dollar figure that we don't use very often. That gets you a good amount of stuff. Again, if you want to get free stuff, $10 isn't going to do it for you. But if somebody does something really nice for you, $10 is nice. But I would say the expected tip for a lot of things in town is like $5. Essentially, if you're gambling, let's go to the gambling side of this. If you're playing like blackjack, $15, $25 blackjack, something around that nature. if you play for 20 minutes and you break even, let's just say you started with 200 and now you have 205 or 250, and the dealer's, quite nice, $5 is good. $5 is kind of what's expected. You could always tip more. Like the tipping police of Las Vegas love to tell people you have to tip a certain amount. And like the thing is that they don't understand that you guys are on vacation. You have to do a lot of this. So I would say $5 a gaming session is fine. And it's always up to you and depending on how much you win and so on and so forth. Another question I always get is like about jackpots. Like if you win like a $10,000 jackpot, how much should you tip? The thing is you're not like giving money away. Like, that's your money, and you still got to pay the taxes on that as well. So, I mean, if I won $10,000, I mean, again, we're also going to, like, people are going to shame people for stuff. I would probably give the person, the slot attendant, probably like $200 or $300. Like, some people say, like, you have to, like, give them, like, $500. That's kind of excessive. 100, 200... It's not terrible. That's a pretty good day for somebody. So I would say 100 to 200. Yeah, I would actually amend it. I would give them like $200. I feel really good that if it was a $10,000 win, I'd give you $200, and I feel pretty good about it, to be honest. I'd love to know what you guys thought about that. So on a $10,000 win, how much should you tip somebody? It's up to you. It also depends, like if you're normally betting that much. Like it also comes down to like you as a person. Like if you are a millionaire and you are only giving, $200 on a $10,000 ho-hum win, if you're a big gambler, that might not be enough. But as somebody who has like a real working day job and like $10,000 would be like really nice day for me, like extremely nice day, it'd be fantastic. May not go to work the next day, just as a vacation, but I'd go back the next day. So I would say, I don't know, $200 seems really nice, depending on how much drinks I've had. But going back to like sort of our normal life, I would definitely say dealers, $5 a session, completely fine. If you play for longer than that, let's just say an hour, maybe bump it up to 10, especially if people are nice. I think that would be okay with that. The cocktail waitresses, that's probably one that you're going to come in contact pretty much the most, just because you might be playing slots, you might be playing a table game, so on and so forth. I would say, honestly, $1 a drink is fine. You're going to always get, again, these Las Vegas influencers that are like, well, inflation, you can't get anything for $1. Well, the thing is that when you're gambling, that money is actually for gambling. You're not here to fund the cocktail waitresses. They do work a lot of volume. Like that's essentially what they're doing when they're on the floor. Of course, when you're actually like in the high limit, that's a totally different number and they're expecting a totally different, number itself. I was at Resorts World where I saw somebody playing $3,000 hands of blackjack and he tipped her a $1,000 chip. Why? Because she was cute. That's why. But it's also expected in the high limit to be a much larger amount because there's not as many people there. But typically on the floor, if you're playing, a slot machine and you're only going to pay there for a little bit, I would say $1 a drink is fine. If you want a tip on getting your drinks faster at a slot machine, this is, again, sort of a hack, I suppose. If you're going to be there for a while, you got like, $100, $200 in the machine, or you just hit and you want to play there for more. When she comes by the first time, order your drink, give her $5 at the beginning, because then that hopefully means that she's going to be coming back much, much faster over and over and over again. And every time she comes back, $1 a drink at that point. But I would say they're expecting at least $1 a drink, maybe $5 if you want to be really nice or if she's really cute. It's up to you. But it just depends. Like sometimes I'll be at like a craps table, and depending on how my day's been going, I'll either give her $1 or I'll give her $5. Just depends on if I'm winning or not. It just sort of comes down to that. And they understand that. But the thing is, you have to tip them. That is the only person in the entire casino that you are required to tip regardless of the service. I do not care how long it takes. I do not care if the drink tastes bad. Remember, that drink was free. Then people will always come and say, well, I want it the way I want it. Well, the thing is, that drink was free. So just be nice. Be nice. That's very, very important. And also, like if let's just say one person is gambling and your spouse or your partner is not gambling, but they're next to you, feel free to order them a drink too. And then again, just accordingly. So if there's 2 people, $2. That's the way that it works. The old school thing in Las Vegas was because this whole thing was like men were the ones who gambled and women were just, the wives. Not the case anymore. But it's still an old school proposition. Essentially, if one person is gambling and that person is happy, you want to make sure the partner is also happy. And what's a good way to keep that partner happy? Give them a free drink and see what happens. That'll shut them up for at least 20 to 30 minutes, and you can continue to gamble as much as you want. But $1 or $2 is quite nice. $2 is real nice. $2 is actually feels really good, to be honest. But again, totally up to you. So let's move on. Let's move on to, and again, the cocktail wages, the most that they're going to get you is like either faster service or, maybe a step up from your drink. But the thing is, you're not going to get like Johnny Walker Blue at a $15 blackjack table. It's just not going to happen. Just understand. But let's move to the front desk. So the front desk, essentially where you check in, this is actually where it gets a little bit fun because you always hear all these different things about like, I'm going to do the sandwich trick, see what happens. That sometimes works. It depends on who you get, and it depends on how you booked your reservation. Really important to note that if you booked your reservation through a third-party site, so if you booked it through things like Wikipedia or Travelocity, we consider that a third-party booking. So what happens is that those companies, you paid for like, let's just say a double queen room or a queen strip view. You have locked in the price for that. There is no way to wiggle around it. You are getting assigned that room. Or you have to upgrade at a much higher price. And it's actually much more difficult than you think because now we have to unassign that room and then put it someplace else. Much, much more difficult. It's really hard to upgrade when you book through a third party. The easiest way to get an upgrade is to book directly on that hotel's website or book directly with the hotel over the phone, which I understand, is much harder nowadays because everything is automated. So let's just say you book your reservation online. That would count as a regular booking. We call that a transient booking. And when you come in, wait in the line, you have to go to a human person. If you actually want to try to get an upgrade or something with a strip view that you don't already have on your reservation, you want to be a little bit more particular with where you are staying, you have to go to a real person. You can certainly go to the kiosks if you want and do the pre-check-in. Also important to note about pre-check-in, you will typically have to go to a kiosk for pre-check-in because you pre-checked in and your room has already been assigned, but you don't know what it is till you get there. And then they go to the kiosk, you print out the key, and boom, Bob's your uncle, and you're off on your way. If you don't care about any of that, feel free to do that. But there's not a chance for upgrades or anything around that point at the kiosk. And honestly, it doesn't help at all. But if you end up going to the front desk and you have to wait in the line, yes, I know you're going to have to wait in the line. You're going to deal with a real person. Everything moves kind of fast sometimes when you're at the front desk. And sometimes you have to be sort of strategic of who you go to. You, again, have to read the room. Have to figure out, is that person somebody who's going to work with me on my room? Is that somebody who's like going to toe the party line and not be flexible whatsoever? This very much happens. In my, history as a concierge, I was pretty lenient on a lot of things, like I shouldn't have. And some people were much more of a stickler. Like I had a friend, I won't say her name, but she was very much about the rules. She was like, you need to have your photo ID that matches these tickets for this show. It has to match, and I need to see your ID. I will not just take your word for it. I never just gave tickets away. I always checked an ID, but I was pretty chill about it. Like if you walked up and you said, and this happened all the time, because people split up. People will check in, and then some people will come and get their show tickets. It'll be like the wife. So let's just say it's like John Barrymore, famous person, and then the person walked up and it was Drew Barrymore, technically his daughter, but let's just say it was Drew Barrymore. I can't use famous names. That's not a good one. So let's just say it's John Brown. John Brown is the name on the tickets. So when they give me the confirmation, I look it up. It's John Brown, but it's actually the wife. And the wife will say, well, he's in the check-in line and all this other business. So I will typically just check their ID, see that maybe the last names match. If the last names match, sometimes I'd go from there. If they didn't, or if I just wanted further verification, I would just say, can you tell me the name of the house? Or I would just check the ID to see that the house matched. If it matched, boom, Bob's your uncle, I give you your tickets. I try to be pretty cool about it, just because, again, being accessible and cool like that gets you tips. That's the way it works. When you convenience somebody else's life, it's really a good way to get tips. It's like, okay, like, I'm not supposed to do this, but I'll hook you up this way. By the way, when somebody says that, like, hey, like, it's kind of busy, but I think I can squeeze you in, they are looking to get a tip. And again, sometimes it just helps their life to be non-combative. That was me. But it's usually a good little sign to be like, you know what, I'm going to tip that guy. That actually happened to me one time when I was, booking. Was I booking? It was actually very stressful. Someone gave me $100 tip before I did anything, which then puts pressure on you to do something. And they wanted to book a cabana at the MGM Grand pool, the Lazy River, which was, very busy. It was like Memorial Day weekend. It was like a very busy like pool weekend, and he was here for business, and then his family was visiting him, and it was like Thursday. So it was Thursday, and he wanted a cabana for Saturday. So I had about a day to figure this out, I had a day, 2 days to choose from essentially. But he was like, let's see what you can do. So then I look and I check, and we really can't like move people out of cabanas. It's not really how it works. So I was like, well, let me check and see. And I said, oh, well, you know what? It looks like I can squeeze you in right here. It looks like I can get you this cabana. It's for this price. It's, $1,200 food and beverage for Saturday, right on the Lazy River where you wanted it. He says, perfect, book it. I made it sound like there was only like one left, or I was booting somebody out of it. There was literally 9 different cabanas available to choose from at the pool that day. So sometimes a little bit of acting, but that's sometimes the way it works. But again, he gave me $100, and that put a lot of pressure on me. $20 is nice. I've actually, one time, I was checking in at the Vdara for something, like I was doing like a staycation, and no, I was staying at the Cosmopolitan. That's where I was. So staying at the Cosmopolitan. I think this was like an anniversary thing, long time ago, and no longer dating that person. And I checked in and I tried to do like the trick, like see what you can do. So I gave them $20, and she did exactly what I ended up doing once I became a concierge. I would leave the money out, like right next to the mouse, so they can see the money. So I didn't put it in my pocket yet, because I didn't finish doing the thing that I was told or asked to do. So she did the same thing, and she was like, well, I can't do like a higher floor, or I can't do something she wanted, something she couldn't do. And I just said, she said, do you want, I can give you this back if you'd like. I said, no, that's okay. It's fine. Just keep it. You're good. Because again, that's like just sort of something that you are surrendering and hoping something happens. And that's sometimes the way it works with the front desk. It really depends. I would definitely say that trick, the $20 thing, works better on weekdays when it's not as much occupancy. So, because the thing is like if you're there on a weekend, like let's just say Veterans Day or some very busy weekend, on like Saturday, Friday is when you'd probably be checking in, but Friday or Saturday, and you're trying to get an upgrade when they're at occupancy of 105%, you're probably not going to be getting an upgrade. You're probably stuck in the room that you have. But if you go on, let's just say really good days would be like sometimes Sunday, but really like Monday through Thursday. Thursday's kind of a hard day to get upgraded as well. But let's just say Monday through, Thursday. Those are better days to get upgrades, because typically they don't have that much occupancy at that point, unless there's a big convention. But it's a much easier way to get like a nicer room, a room with the view, a room closer to the elevators. That's another one that people really like. Just depends. And again, be clear with what you want. Be like, hey, like I was just looking to see if I can get, a view, or if I can get a higher floor, or if I can get something closer to the elevators. It's a good way to do it. Another good way to get that kind of stuff. And also, again, you just, appreciate your time. That's a good way to do it. Thank you. Appreciate you taking the time for it. All those little things work. Just being nice is a really, really important thing. It actually means a little bit more than money sometimes, just because when you're, a hospitality worker, you deal with a lot of like really rude, entitled people. Because in Las Vegas, we have a lot of these rewards programs, which give you like a false sense of, one, entitlement, but two, status. Because the thing is that you can buy a credit card and become a Pearl member at MGM. And then, you go from there. So people like me, who I use players cards and stuff all the time, but I don't play slots and I don't gamble nearly enough to have the high tier level. So I am much more of the old school sort of personable level, talking to people, seeing what, kind of understanding about their life a little bit. But I have that luxury because I live here. So that's just sort of the way that it works. Yeah, the players card thing kind of sucks because it really sort of took away the personability of like having a host or having a concierge and that kind of thing. And, it kind of blows. But I digress. I went on a very long story about, how much, but $20 at the front desk gets you a good amount. Might even give you something for free. Like if they can actually end up giving you like I think this is actually what happened was at the Cosmopolitan is that like she couldn't upgrade anything, but I still gave her $20. So with that, she ended up sending like a nice little like box of chocolates to the room, which is quite nice. Sometimes they'll do champagne, sometimes they'll do chocolates. Those are kind of like our go-tos, and they work. They're really nice. So yeah, if they can't upgrade your room or do something fun of that nature, they might send you a nice little amenity. At least back in the day. Again, things have changed since I was a concierge because we had COVID, and then, MGM fired all of their staff, which closed all of their, concierge desks, which that really sucked. But again, just one of those old school things. The housekeepers, people always wonder if you should tip your housekeepers. I would say yes, especially if they're coming every day. If they come every other day, then maybe adjust. But I would definitely say that if you get, housekeeping service every day or every other day, because that's sometimes the way they do it, I would say it really depends. I might say like $5 a day. Like if you're staying for 3 nights, that's, $15. It's really not that bad. And they're actually like cleaning your room and doing all the service. I would say, if you're $5 a day is probably not terrible. And at the end of the day, you give them $20. That's a nice little tip for that person. And they work really hard. I actually had to make a couple beds one time when I had to do like a room setup and the beds were not made. And like if I was waiting for a housekeeper to come in and like fix the bed, it would take absolutely forever. So for her to come over and like do it. So I would actually end up just like tucking in the corners and doing that and just doing that part. And then doing like the room setup itself with the roses. My back hurt so bad. And I was in much better shape then. And my back would kill me for the rest of the day. Or at least for, walk back to the concierge desk. It was terrible. But I digress. $5 for the housekeeper. Totally fine. Uber, taxis, those are all kind of, self-explanatory. Taxis, I think it depends on, how far you go. I would say like $5 is good. But let me see here. Let me go back to here because I think I covered most of it. So what is also a thing? Like if you go to like a cafe off the strip, again, if you have a human waiting on you, then tip. If you're going to a Starbucks, up to you. Like I'll give them $1 or $2 just because I'll give them $2. Like if they're making a whole ass drink, but a lot of times I get tea and, I'll give them $1 or $2. Except that one place I go to actually just makes the tea for me and then gives it to me for free because I kind of work there. So I will tip them $5. If you get something for free, give them at least $5. Take care at least of half of it. People say, well, that's redundant. Why'd they give you 2 for free? Well, because they also would like a tip. And they know that you tip well, and that's why they give you free shit. You will not get free shit if you do not tip. That's just the way that it works. So, Sorry, I'm just kind of reading here. Great service, room upgrades, concierge, meals, etc. Yeah, I think I actually covered all of them. That was actually just such an easy pod, to be honest. That it was easy. Oh, haha, almost forgot. So for those of you that would love a picture with a showgirl, just Photoshop one into a picture at home. No, if you really want one, it's gotten pretty outrageous, to be honest. And just so you know what they are expecting, they will definitely try to fleece you and take $20 a person. I've even heard, like, 'cause usually they work in pairs, but usually, my goodness, like they would say, I want $40 total, so $20 a girl. I've even heard some people who were like, I'm going to tip $40 each. That's $80 for a photo. That's stupid. That's stupid crazy. Don't do that. Don't be that person. I honestly, guys, I'm going to be really mean to people that work on, Fremont Street. I think all those acts suck. I think maybe because I'm here all the time. But like if I have to see the same routine of the group of dancers banging on the drums, jumping over 6 people, I'm gonna be so angry that I talked about it again. Just because it's the same trick over and over and over again. Like they sort of just do the same thing. They block the streets, a whole deal. Again, where to begin on Fremont Street? But hey, man, if that's your vibe, you're here to have a good time, do your thing. They're expecting $20 at least a picture. Sorry, that's it. They cover everything. They cover the bartenders. Oh, if you make a bet like at the sports book, they take tips too. I would say I'd give them, I'd give them a 5, like just because again, if it's there, I'd give them a 5. It just feels like normal, and they're grateful for it. So yeah, you could tip them too. Bathroom attendants. Oh my God, I love tipping bathroom attendants. If you're the bathroom, if it's like a nice restaurant. Again, using Delilah's as an example because I know that they have one. They have a bathroom attendant, and I don't know about and I've always wondered this. Like, if you go, honestly, $2 is good. If you give him $2, that's fine. I give him 5 because again, he's cool, and I get really excited when I see him. But $2 is fine. Especially if you're like just getting the towel, like if you're washing your hands and they do the whole towel thing and they give you the towel, they'll do the soap, which is nice too. Soap thing is cool. I would give them $5, $2 to $5, totally fine. You're good to go. The women's restroom, totally different. I've heard they're very strict in like the women's restrooms at nightclubs. Like they're like hawks. Like, hey, you're not using any of our shit for free. You have to tip first, and then you can use my hairspray or body spray or whatever they got in there. The men's room is like a fucking party. Sorry for my language. It's like a party. You go in there, they got cigars, they got cigarettes, they got candy, they got scents, fragrances, as my nephew calls it. They got everything in that thing. I bought a $35 cigar in there one time, and I thought it was a Cubano from damn Cuba. I was really drunk. Don't do that. But they have them in there. And I love it. But, give them $5. If you have more than that, then obviously give them more money. But, $5 is cool. And that is honestly the most fun experience that you'll have. I know it sounds terrible, but it just feels so fun, Vegas-y to me that they have bathroom attendants. And, like, they're so professional. Like, these guys, I saw a guy do, like, this thing where, like, the napkin, like, twirls down like a helicopter into your hands. Sick. So, bathroom attendants, make sure you tip those guys. Very, very important. Do you tip your host? If you guys have a casino host and general managers of restaurants and, maitre d's will take it. He'll do it. But like general managers or owners of restaurants, they'll probably look at you a little bit funny if you're trying to tip them. It's actually, I believe, not allowed to tip a casino host. But it happens all the time. People give envelopes and that kind of deal. People give trips. Like one time I heard a casino host, they were given a tip where essentially they said their player told them, next time you're in Italy, you can use my house in Tuscany or off of Capri or something. And they did. And they were able to. And you just had to schedule it. And it was really awesome. So really interesting relationships that way. So yeah, really, really cool. So I think I covered a lot. I think I covered most of it. Who else? One more. Yes. So the bellman. Oh my goodness, I almost forgot the bellman. Just they're the money making machines. Although a lot of places are getting rid of bellmen, which also sucks. But places like MGM, who have bellmen, obviously, they tend the usual sort of tip amount, I would say, is $5 a bag. So like if you have 5 bags, that's a $25 tip. Honestly, if it's 5 bags, you give them 20, you're fine. But essentially, $5 a bag when they bring it to your room. So they're going to bring it up to the room, and then boom, Bob's your uncle. You can tip them at the bottom. At the bottom when you're actually giving your luggage. I wouldn't say you have to tip at that point, but give them a 5 would be nice, because then they will, the thing is, actually, this is another thing. If you tip the bellman at the beginning, if you give them like a 5 or a 10 is a great one. If you give them a 10, I also just remembered a person that I have to talk about, but you give them a 10, they're going to put a little VIP tag onto your bag and the slip, and make a note, VIP, you will sometimes get your bag faster. So if you tip them a good amount at the beginning, like, give them a 10, and then you go up to your room, call for your bags, comes up. Yes, you're going to have to give that person more money, so that's another $20. But hey, that's the service. You didn't want to take all those bags. You're on your own. You wanted to store them. That's the way it goes. That's a good way to sort of look at it, because you'll get your bags much faster. But if you're actually just going to be dropping your bags off so they can just stay in that area until, you're ready to go to the airport, I would just tip them when you pick up your bags, because you're not waiting for, you're not trying to beat other people to get it up to your room, because getting them from the back is much easier if they're just going back out to the front instead of going up to a room. So I would say $10 when you drop off your baggage. When they get to your room, $5 a bag. And then when you are just leaving your luggage there, I would say $5 is probably fine. It's okay. So that's that one. I almost forgot the valets. The valets have changed immensely. When I first started doing this, long time ago, when I moved to Las Vegas, valet was the coolest job in the world. They were so fast. It was like a legion of all these valet parkers that ran shit. Valet parkers in Vegas, at like a nice a nice hotel, let's just say like the Bellagio, easily making over $100,000 a year. Like easily. I can't stress this. It was a money maker. But now a lot of the valets are third party. They don't actually work for the hotel. They actually work for a valet parking service, which, sucks. And I know that they're all dressed up like they work there. But they do not. When you actually want to apply to be a valet, you have to go to a different website. You very rarely see valet parker available anymore. And it is now charged for valet parking. I think I actually can't think of a place that does free valet parking anymore. Yeah, it really sucks. It's really terrible. But if you park valet, I would say $5 when you drop your keys off. That's pretty nice. But if you really want to get the VIP service, you tip them before. People think you're supposed to tip after, which you are. But you give them the big tip at the beginning, because if you give them the big tip at the beginning, they will park your car somewhere nice. Sometimes, my dad has a very large truck. It gets the VIP treatment regardless, just because it is a gigantic truck and they can't fit it in the garage. So it ends up being sat right up front. So number one, have a gigantic truck and you'll get perfect parking. But I've actually talked to valets who said, if I get somebody who pulls up in a Lamborghini and they don't give me minimum $20, that shit's going in the back. That's a quote. They said that shit's going in the back. Most Lamborghini and Ferrari owners understand this, and they typically will tip at least $50, maybe $100, depending on their wealth. But usually minimum $20, but $50 to be real. $20 gets you a really nice parking space, I have to say. I've done that before. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're really surprised that this had to take so long, but really you're paying for the expedited service when you exit the hotel. But a lot of times this trick works. You'll come up to a hotel and they'll say hotel guests only. This happens very, very common on Saturdays and Friday nights, especially if there's a big event, and they'll say, are you a hotel guest? You'll say no. If you are, cool. But if you're not a hotel guest, they'll say, no, I'm not a hotel guest. I'm just, here for reservations. They'll say, well, we're only hotel guests tonight. And then what I'll do is I'll say, is there any way you can find a space for it? And then depending on, the place, depending on the vibes, I'll usually have a 10 or a 20. If I want to be guaranteed, I will give them a 20. I was like, is there any place you can find a spot? Show them a $20 bill. They'll say, yeah, I'll find a spot for you. And then boom, in the snap of a finger, they've miraculously find a parking space for your car. Works almost every time. Almost every time. And the only reason I say almost is because I was with my parents and we were going to see Garth Brooks at the Allegiant Stadium. And we were not running late, but we were running a little bit behind. And the truck was too big for the, garage. It was very busy there because it was one of the first times they had an event there. And it was too far to park anyplace else and then walk, because my dad did not want to walk. We didn't want to park at Allegiant. It was too busy, yada, yada, yada. We were going to park valet at the Mandalay Bay Hotel. Pull up to the thing, and the guy says, I tried to do the $20. He said, nah, man, I can't, it's too busy. I can't find a spot for it. And I was like, well, dude, what if I gave you like $50? Because I think I had a 50 as well. Like I had a 50 for some crazy reason. So I said, how about a 50? Can I, give you a 50 and then, you can find a spot for it? He said, okay, that's fine. And then boom, parked the car. We also still had to pay for the parking as well. Like, don't think like just because you tipped at the beginning, it gets you out of paying for the parking at the end. You still also have to pay for that parking as well. Again, the thing you're paying for is the convenience of being able to leave quickly. That's the only reason you want to tip extra. Or if you really, really, really cannot go to the garage to park, at least for me, because now I have a lot of these you're at the tier levels where you can park for free, which is nice. But I'm telling you, man, that is probably one of my favorite tricks of Valley, when I used to Valley Park a lot, because Valley parking felt so Vegas. Like you'd pull up and you'd say, name's Ortega. You give them a $5. They take your name, give you the ticket. And there's your car, and off you go. And there you go with the night. And you know where your car is going to be at the end. And then when you come back, you do it. You give them a $5. It's such a smooth motion. They hop out of the car. You have the money. You have your ticket. You have your ticket and the money together, just in a nice little square. And then boom, you give it to them. Seamless motion. Thank you, Mr. Ortega. Need any directions? And then no, and then drive off. It was a fantastic time. It was wonderful. It was so cool. You literally can be going inside to have 2 beers and just hang out at the bar, but you felt like a rock star, at least when you got there. And that's what made Vegas great. I loved it. But yeah, now you guys have to, go back outside, pay on the kiosk because there's not even an attendant, and then you have to scan it, and then boom, here comes somebody from the bottom, never saw you before at the beginning. You give them $5 for just, existing, and then you go. So yeah, Valley parking kind of sucks now. It used to be so much better. They used to be so much faster too, because they knew that it wasn't guaranteed that they were going to get money, because, now that you pay at the kiosk, they know that people don't want to tip anymore because that's the way that it works, and they don't, move quickly. They just say, screw it. So they don't move as fast. I still tip them anyways because, hey, it's a tough job. They got to go with the car. But that's the thing. That's the move. If you tip them at the beginning, if you give them like a 20, you'll probably get a VIP parking, which is cool. The coolest VIP parking I ever had was, I think, me and my mom. No, it wasn't me and my mom. It was myself. So I was going to the Paris Hotel for something. And I can't remember if it was like a date or something, like that. And my car was parked right in the front of the Paris Hotel where the Arc du Triomphe was, and you can see like the fountains in the background. It was sick. So yeah, one of the cooler VIP parking area experiences, which is cool. It's always funny when your truck is parked right next to a Lambo. Sick. But anyways, covered all the valets. I think I did all of the tipping. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If I missed anybody or you have any more questions, feel free to DM me on conciergeconfidential_LV. You can also still follow the TikTok page, which, try to post stuff on there every once in a while. But again, most of the stuff is on Instagram. Mostly I'm just doing the pods for now just because, pretty busy with other things. But I'm still going out and still seeing things for you guys and still seeing Bottled Blonde is coming up. Bottled Blonde in front of the from the Bellagio. Looks awesome. And then also Delilah's will have brunch going forward on Saturdays. Sick. So thank you so much for listening, everybody. I know this was a longer episode. Hopefully you had a lot of information. Oh my goodness, we're running on an hour. Holy guacamole. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this entire podcast. But again, thank you so much for listening. If you see me out in town, make sure to come up and say hello. Remember, keep it confidential.